I'm Luis Scott, managing partner of Bader Scott Injury Lawyers, one of the fastest growing law firms in the country, and I'm also the co-founder of 8-Figure Firm Consulting. I've successfully built multiple companies by focusing on leadership, operations, and culture. Using these principles, my companies have generated close to $100 million in revenue. But before any of this success, I started my legal career as a receptionist, and I worked my way up to becoming managing partner. In each episode of this podcast, I sit down with leaders and entrepreneurs who have had the guts to step out on their own and the courage to face adversity. They share with us their tips for achievement, the challenges they have faced, and the glory of success. I welcome you to the Guts and Glory Show. Luis Scott here, host of the Guts and Glory Show. I feature top leaders who share the obstacles and challenges of leadership, the guts it takes to succeed, and the glory of success. Today, you will hear another inspiring interview from attorney and entrepreneur John Barry of Barry Law Firm, who has built one of the most successful companies in the legal industry. Before we get started, this episode has been brought to you by 8-Figure Firm Consulting. We know the biggest struggle to scaling and growing a law firm is transitioning from a law practice to a law business. At 8-Figure Firm, we help firms make the transition, showing them how to scale to 7 and 8 figures. We can help you develop your business so it works for you instead of you working for it. Turn your law firm into a law business by going to 8figurefirm.com. Now, we have the pleasure of having John Barry, CEO of Barry Law Firm, based out of Lincoln, Nebraska, with a nationwide practice helping veterans all across America in all 50 states. And they are known as America's Veterans Law Firm. Under his leadership, Barry Law Firm has made the Inc. 5000 and Law Firm 500 for 3 consecutive years, and it's been listed as one of the 5 fastest growing law firms in the Midwest. Not only has he led successful teams in the courtroom, resulting in several jury trial victories, but he's also successfully completed Airborne School and Ranger School and has led soldiers in deployments to Iraq and Bosnia. John has a distinguished career in the military and in the legal space, and we're so glad to have him. John, welcome to the Guts and Glory Show.
Thanks so much for having me, Luis. It's an honor to be here.
So how are things in Nebraska?
They're great. You know, COVID hasn't hit us that hard. We're a little bit upset about the football season being canceled, but you know, kids are in school. It's interesting. My kids are in different school districts, and my daughter only goes twice a week to school. My son goes full time. It's wow. Interesting times, but it's good. I can't complain. The world's different, but you know, we're warriors. We adapt and we overcome.
Absolutely. Now, I heard that some of the seasons are going to start in January. I guess you're a University of Nebraska fan. Are they going to start in January also, or is that a possibility?
I've heard January, I've heard spring. You know, I didn't go to Nebraska. I went to William and Mary. And it's interesting because the years that I would have gone to Nebraska, that my friends that played in high school, they have the 94, 95, and 97 championship rings. I went to William and Mary, and I did get to play with some people who are NFL coaches now. Sean McDermott, who's now the Bills coach, and Mike Tomlin, the Steelers coach. So it was 1AA. I wasn't big enough or fast enough to play for Nebraska, but William and Mary was a great academic experience, and ultimately it led to my career in the military.
You know, the thing is that sports in general really help you learn so many things about teamwork and really running a business. So it's interesting because I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, and almost all of them have a background in sports. So, I mean, I don't know if you found that to be the case.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I think the 2 things that were important in my development when I was very young. Number one, I had a paper out since I was 10 years old. And I did that. I detasseled corn, but I always played sports. And growing up, you know, until 6th grade, it was always the kids whose parents were the coach who got all the playing time, who were the stars.
Yep.
And then in 6th grade, I started playing tackle football, and I was just taking kids' heads off, right? And all of a sudden, I went from being the kid on the bench to the kid that I'm not kidding. They lined us up after the first 3 weeks of practice, and the coaches picked. It was like, you know, the playground where you pick your team. And I was the 2nd overall pick, the number 1 pick for the white team. The blue team got the first pick, and that guy ended up being a really good friend of mine. But it was the first time where I really accelerated in sports. And, you know, that was just because I was tough. I had a paper route since I was 4 years old. I knew what it was like to get up in the early morning and deliver papers in the snow. And I also just, I like the physical contact, and I all of a sudden it felt like finally I was good at something. It was great. Sports, you get knocked down, you get back up, but it is about putting in the effort. I will tell you one thing, Luis, that I learned in college where I did not have a great football career. I worked so hard to get strong, but I can tell you that,
right.
There's something about size is more important than strength in college football, and quickness, which is natural, is more important than speed. And it seemed like no matter how hard I worked, if there were guys with better natural ability, they could outwork me. Now, fortunately, that's not true in the business world. And if you find in the business world, if you find someone who's smarter than you, you hire them and you let them run with it. But, and in sports, sometimes you reach your peak and you can't get past that. I think in business, when you figure out what your unique ability is, you're going to peak out in other areas. That's where you hire other people.
Yeah, there's definitely a way to kind of like find people who can help you continue to elevate, where in sports, nobody's going to help you. You're like kind of on your island on your own. So that's definitely a difference. Now, I will tell you about the college football season. I was kind of hoping that every conference would cancel except the SEC, because I'm a Georgia fan. And I said, if the SEC plays, then that means the SEC championship is the national champion. So like, there was my chance, because, we're cursed in Georgia. We always lose in the end. So like, that was my opportunity to win it all. So, it is what it is, but it's not happening. It looks like there's going to be plenty of people playing. So, but you've had some developments in your personal life just recently. You got married in June. How's married life been?
It's great. I think the first time around, I really thought that I was about 27 the first time I got married. And I really thought that, I was going to slow down. I'd want to go to the Home Depot, and go to Bed Bath and all these stores and just do those home projects, and life would slow down. And somehow, I wouldn't be as hungry maybe, but see, you are who you are. And so the first marriage, I think that, that was kind of what my first wife expected, but that's not, and I tried to be that person, but that's not me. And my second wife, she's a trial lawyer. She's really aggressive. She loves to travel. And I kind of realized, like, I'm always going to be young, and I need to be around, I need to have that attitude. I can't be the old guy who's painting his house. I got to be the guy who's out there, hustling every day. I got to be out there winning something. And that's what I love about the practice of law. You get a chance to win every day. And now I'm married to someone who actually is in the same field. She's a phenomenal lawyer. Her goal was to be an Olympic ski racer, and ended up instead being a college soccer player, and then became a lawyer. But being with someone who's highly competitive, highly driven, it's great to be in that type of relationship, because you can push each other to be better, but you also understand the stakes and what it costs to be at the best, to be at your best, to be at the top of your game. It's not easy. And if you're not with somebody who does that, they're not going to understand. There's going to be a lot of resentment. So I'm happy that I found someone that I feel like I can share my life with, because we're the same person in terms of we want to win, we work hard, and we want to have great lives. And we don't want to slow down. In many ways, I suppose it's because I'm immature, right? I've never hit that level of maturity where I want to slow life down. And so it's great. The marriage has been a great experience. And, I didn't get it right the first time, but this time I got it right.
Well, the thing is, you said something that's I've heard before, and I really believe this. You can't really change who you are at your core. We spend a lot of time. I don't know if you're an avid reader. I'm an avid reader, and I'm always looking for ways to improve as an individual. I'm always listening to tapes. I'm always listening to YouTube, all these things to improve. But at my core, I am who I am. And if you don't find alignment in your relationships, especially your marriage relationship, it's really hard to flourish as a professional. And I think that's a lesson within itself. And so it's a great point that you have. Now, you have been back at work for a little while. Tell us a little bit about you and your practice and your business. Tell us a little bit about what you do and so forth.
So it's like two businesses. We have a trial firm in the Midwest where we handle personal injury cases, and we also criminal defense and litigation. We love to be in the courtroom. And for us, that feeds our competitive side. But we also represent veterans nationwide. We are America's veterans disability firm, and we go out and we take care of our nation's heroes. Those people who earn those disability benefits that are not receiving them, we love to fight for them. But it's a different type of fight. It's more of an administrative fight, and that you don't get to go into the courtroom. There are appellate courts, but there's not trial courts per se for veterans law. So we do both, and we find that it works hand in hand, because a lot of our veteran clients who are injured in car accidents or have traumatic brain injuries, were injured in service, we can help them. And when they get into trouble, we can help them. And ultimately, we follow Dan Sullivan's credo. Every day we look in the mirror and say, who do I want to be a hero to? And for us, it's our nation's heroes, our veterans. We want to fight for them because they fought for us. And that's who I hire too, my heroes.
Yeah, I believe that. Now, what gave you that passion to like develop that kind of business? Because a lot of my listeners are entrepreneurs. And many times they don't know what their passion is. I've talked to somebody just recently and they said, I know the 9-to-5 is not for me, but I don't know what my passion is. I don't know how I'm going to start a business. Like, what am I going to do? Like, where did that passion for you come from and how did it develop?
So I think the way to do it, Luis, is to think back to the time in your life when you were happiest. I agree. You don't change. So when were you happiest? And law school is a miserable experience, and it's a waste of money, right? By the time you get out of law school, you have a degree, but you don't know how to practice law. And you spend the first 5 years really struggling, working the 80-hour days or 80-hour weeks to try to just figure it out and do a great job for your clients, right? But then as you mature, you fall into a groove and you get good. But then it's like, wait a minute, what am I doing all this for? What is it that I really believe? And for me, it's a few things. Number one, when I was an infantry officer, I raised my hand, took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. We do that every day with our clients. So that's part of it. But the big part for me is that I was happiest when I was a new second lieutenant, just out of Fort Benning. I went down to Fort Hood. I showed up, and there was my platoon. And most of these guys were Desert Storm veterans. And I would show up for PT at 5:30. They'd have been there since 5. And they pushed me. They expected nothing less than excellence. They pushed each other. If we had a soldier of the quarter board, they would come on the weekends, make sure their soldiers were prepared. It felt like when I was in high school on a championship team. And I'm like, man, that's what I want. That's what I want to feel every day when I go into work. I get that feeling in the courtroom. I love the courtroom because I get a win in the courtroom, right? I get a fight in the courtroom. But as you know, lawyers don't get to spend every day in the courtroom, and right. Sometimes you lose. So how can I get that feeling? You get that feeling from your team. And so for me, it was about building that team. And I thought, okay, who do we want to be heroes to? It's veterans. And who's going to get us there? Other veterans. And so I think of the best leaders, the best mentors, the best team members I had, they were all veterans, or all in the military when I was in the military. And so I went back and I hired them, and now we have members from every branch on our team. And there are people that do things a lot better than me. I have some amazing strengths and some horrible weaknesses, and I try to hire for the weaknesses. And in the military, we get it. In the military, it's about getting results. When I was I had 2 company commands and a battalion command. And when you're a commander, you are charged with protecting the lives of America's sons and daughters in combat. There's no heavier burden. And think about this, Luis. You guys employ probably 150 people, and those people and their children are depending on you. And so people say, oh, there's COVID and there's all these other reasons. But guess what, Luis? It's on you to take care of those people. And it doesn't matter what the circumstances are. You're out there to win because your team depends on you. And so while on the battlefield, we think about protecting the nation's sons and daughters, who are really our warriors, our steely-eyed killers, you've got to do the same for your team, those warriors and steely-eyed killers at Bader Scott. And obviously we've had a lot of conversations about that. But for me, it's a heavy responsibility. It's a heavy burden. But, I'm committed to my team to give them the best possible lives, the best possible opportunities. And if I don't do that, then I'm failing.
One of the things that the theme that I'm hearing from everything that you're saying is that at the core of your passion is really helping people, is really helping your clients and helping your employees and helping the people you're around. It doesn't sound like the passion is the work itself. It's the result of helping people. And I think that's a great lesson, because many times we're trying to find our passion and we think the passion is the work. You know, I want to have a passion for fitness, or I want to have a passion for cooking, or I want to have a passion for sewing. And it's not that, it's what's behind the cooking. You know, I don't start a restaurant because I want to cook. I start a restaurant because I want to serve a meal that makes people feel good. And I think that that's an invaluable lesson. And I wonder, like, what is the one thing that you had to overcome in your life that kind of gave you that feeling of wanting to help people, like the what we call the effect of your actions? Like, was there something that drove you? Was there a negative experience that you may have suffered that caused you to have, feel that way? Or was there something like that in your life?
I mean, several negative experiences, several setbacks. I think back to a lot of our veterans, and what they miss is the people, the camaraderie, the teamwork, and we work with veterans with PTSD, and for a lot of them, the best way to heal is to be around veterans and to be with that team again. And it's not necessarily about talking about the past, but looking toward the future with that team. And one of the things that really is tough for a lot of our veterans is they come back from deployments, and it's great until you're out of the service. And then that team, all that support you had is gone, and you're alone.
Right.
And you're alone sometimes with some pretty bad memories. Now, for me, I think of my setbacks. I was injured playing football in college, and that was my dream. After my sophomore year, I didn't play anymore. When I went through Ranger School the first time, I got injured and I failed out. And, it was horrible. It took me 6 months to rehab my shoulder, and to go, and it's not, it's a difficult school. I mean, you're deprived of food and sleep. When I went through the second time, I lost 50 pounds, so in 60 days, right? And I wasn't fat. I was in shape. So, but the setbacks happen. You don't always get there the first time. And so, whether it's physical injuries or failures, I've lost cases that I should have won, but, I've won cases that I should have lost. And I think that's what being a leader is about. It's about being with the people who trust you to get them to the finish line, regardless of the setbacks. And, Luis, we all have setbacks, and some are worse than others, but that's one of the things I really like about helping veterans, because you hear these stories, right, about these heroes just doing most incredible things, and you're like, wow. I mean, I had a friend, actually, he started a CrossFit gym in Columbus, Georgia, a veteran, built 5 of them. He actually got out right before COVID, so he did okay. But, he had, his big thing was to help veterans get back in shape, and this guy he had 4 Bronze Stars, 2 Purple Hearts, and people could have said he did his service, but no, he went back, built a CrossFit gym, and he had guys who were amputees and had other serious disabilities, and they're working out, and he's calling me at 5 a.m. last time I was down there in Columbus, said, "What are you going to work out with us?" And I'm like, what's your excuse for not being here? And then you see these heroes, and say, wow, if these guys can show up and do it with these disabilities, who am I to not do this?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like injuries and setbacks is kind of what drives you to really help other people. Cause you experience that. And once again, we're talking to entrepreneurs, they're listening to this show, and they're trying to figure out how to get unstuck, how to get to the next level and get there. Now, you run an incredibly successful law firm, and I don't know if you know how successful it is. Many people don't contextualize their success because they're just so busy working, but there's 47,500 law firms in the country. 90% of them have less than 10 attorneys, and you have significantly more attorneys than that. What do you think has been the driving force of your success? And what would you tell someone who is like, I don't want to get into that industry because there's too many? I hear this all the time. People say, nobody wants to hear my podcast. Nobody wants to see my videos. Nobody wants to see my short films. Nobody wants to see me on Instagram. They're like afraid because there's so many people out there that they can't get in and make a difference. But you've come in and you've made a difference despite the fact that 90% of the 47,500 law firms are less than 10 attorneys. What do you think was the differentiator in your business?
I mean, I think it was choosing the people, right? I mean, I came in, just like you said, I mean, my father was a famous lawyer. He defended the commander of the 5th Special Forces in Vietnam, wrote a book about it called Those Gallant Men. I mean, he subpoenaed Nixon. Nixon dismissed the case. My father went on, tried a bunch of cases, and so to fill those shoes, right? And he was a great lawyer, a great personality, but really never had to worry about running the business of the law firm. And then when I started to work for him, then I noticed that that's something we needed to take care of. And, and I was trying to prove myself at the same time. Like, yeah, I'll never be, and quite frankly, I will never be as good of a lawyer as him. He was, a legend. And I will, no matter how hard I work, I'll never be as good as him, but I'm good at other things. And where I've been successful and where I failed has all been about the people, Luis. I have hired my greatest investments. I mean, we're talking 10X, maybe 100X investments have been the team. And my biggest losses are making those poor decisions where I've hired people who were toxic. It's one of those things where people talk about, you want to go back to Jim Collins and talk about getting the right people on the bus, on the right seats, right? But then there's another bus. Sometimes, when it all falls apart and they're toxic and they're traitors, right? They're basically screwing over other team members. They're toxic. They're hurting people. They're those are the people you want to get on a different bus and, send it far, far away.
And you need to do that.
You don't know that right away.
Yeah. And you absolutely need to send them far away because they could create more damage in your business than you could ever imagine. Now, you said something about being legendary, and I kind of laugh because so many people, they think that you have to be the best. You have to be like the top, person in your field to be successful. And you said, look, I'm not legendary, but I still became successful. And I think that that's so encouraging because people need to hear that story. They need to say, I don't have to be the best to still be great. I don't have to be like number one to still have a great lifestyle. One of the things that you said early on, you talked about being a warrior. And I know in your offering, I call it an offering on your website, you talk about the Warrior Ethos. What does that mean to you? And what does that mean, as it relates to your business? Like, what is the Warrior Ethos and how do you use that to harness a business that's successful?
You fight relentlessly, right? The Warrior Ethos is about knowing that there will be failures and already deciding that you're going to get up from them. You don't know what they're going to be. You don't know when you're going to get hit in the face. You don't know when you're going to get shot, but it doesn't really matter. As long as you have made the decision, you decide, kill off the other options. You're going to do this one thing and you're going to do it well. That's the Warrior Ethos. It's one of our 5 core values. We actually had posters made. They're great, and but really it is about just fighting. You just have to be relentless in your fights. You can't give up. And the Warrior Ethos is about, you are a warrior. And let me tell you something about warriors. Warriors don't fight alone. Warriors fight as teams. And when you're with a group of warriors, everybody knows their job and does their job, and they have your 6. And so they have your back. In the military, we call it your 6, right? They always have your back because you can depend on them. And if someone doesn't have a Warrior Ethos and they're on your team, the whole team's going to suffer, right? They're the weak link in the chain. And so we need that Warrior Ethos. There's nothing worse than having somebody who's going to quit on you. Well, the only thing worse than having someone who's going to quit on you is having that person who's actively going to work against you.
Right. No, and people they'll creep into your organization, and you definitely had to be on the lookout for those type of people. Now, you mentioned that a warrior has to have guts. And as you know, the Guts and Glory show is all about guts and defining guts. What's the gutsiest decision you've ever had to make?
I think some of those decisions have been trial strategy. You have to understand that I do a lot of criminal defense, and a lot of times, let's say, for instance, you're representing a guy that has been charged with sex assault. Right now, he's looking at a long time in prison, probably lifetime sex offender registry, felony conviction. I mean, for them, it's like their whole world is crashing around them. And when you go to trial, and as a lawyer that people are going to second guess every move you make. If you lose, you may be sued for malpractice. They may claim ineffective assistance of counsel, see, you have to make that decision. And the client comes to you and says, here's my life. It's in your hands. And I think some of the gutsiest decisions I made were in trial strategy. And, sometimes they paid off and sometimes they didn't. When they pay off, you're a hero. And when they don't, you're a bum. I think I've made a lot of gutsy decisions in business, but it's hard for me to view them that way, Luis, because the scary thing for me is not taking the big leaps. It's the fear of what happens if I don't. Who else is hungry out there while I'm sitting in my air conditioning? Who's out there, in the desert, in the jungle, fighting, hungry. Who's going to come get me because I am too comfortable? So for me, I think I get more scared about the opportunities I don't take. I don't really worry about failure because, once you set something in motion, it's going to happen. And you're going to get stronger. You're going to learn how to deal with it, even if you don't know how to. Once you have the courage, you'll develop the capability later, right? But once you have the courage to commit, then you develop the capability. You don't start off with that capability. So I think that's been huge. I mean, I've hired people that, it was maybe frightening the amount of money I paid them the first time. The first time I remember the times I was scared. The first time I paid someone a salary of over 6 figures, that was scary. I remember the first time my monthly overhead, payroll, was over $100,000. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a lot and I could lose everything. And then, it comes back to, but if you're going to lose everything, why not play big?
That's right. It's funny because there's a phrase that says new level, new devil. And when we got our overhead and payroll to 100,000, we were like, ooh, that was tough. And then 200 and 300 and, last month, over $1 million. And it's like, that is so scary just to think that much is on, your responsibility. And that takes a lot of guts. It really does take a lot of guts to do that. One of the things that I heard just recently, I was working with someone consulting their firm, and they said, Luis, I appreciate everything you're telling me, all the consultations you're giving me, everything you're telling me to help me. But what I've realized is that I'm actually scared to succeed. I'm actually scared of the responsibility and the accountability. What would you tell somebody who's in that position? They're like not doing what they need to do because they're actually scared of the responsibility and accountability. Like, what would you tell them?
I mean, that's one of the reasons why I stay in charge, because I need it. I'm scared about what happens if I didn't have the accountability and the responsibility. If you take this weight off my shoulders, what's going to happen? Is it going to be that I am going to just relax? Am I going to just relax and crumble into nothing? Or is it going to be partying all night with hookers and cocaine? I mean, what if I didn't have this awesome responsibility? What would really happen to me? That scares the hell out of me. So for people that are afraid of the responsibility, I mean, I think, it's frightening, but once you have it, I mean, every day I wake up, people depend on me. I can't quit. It makes me more responsible. It makes me feel more alive. I love having the responsibility. And once again, I had 3 commands in the Army, and I loved being in command. I hated being a staff officer. But I think it is scary to know that a bunch of people are depending on you, but that's the beauty of it. The fear, let me put it this way, Luis. There's no football on right now, as far as I know. But how many people, that are the avid fans that go to every Cowboys game or every Georgia Bulldogs game because they never get a chance to succeed or win in life? In the courtroom and with clients, we get a chance to win or lose every single day. And when we're building a team, it's the same way. Growing a business, hey, I make some bad decisions and we fail. I make some good decisions and we win. But you know what? It's being in that game and having the responsibility. I mean, that is what gets me going. If you take that away, then I'm very scared about what's going to happen to me.
I hear you. I mean, the thing is that at the end of the day, what's on the other side of overcoming that fear is far greater than the resentment you're going to feel from not taking the leap. And so I always say, take the leap. It's going to be a lot easier than you think, because the regret's just going to be so bad. Now, one of the things that I get asked a lot is about daily rituals, especially when I'm at a conference or talking to people, like, what do you do on a daily basis? I've had that question a lot. And I think a lot of people wonder, what do successful people actually do every day to be successful? Do you have kind of some daily rituals that you do to make yourself, balanced and successful on a daily basis?
I do. And I think the first thing is, don't consider yourself successful. I have many successes, but I'm not full of success. Every day I'm hungry for another success. Every day I wake up poor, right? I'm hungry. But I want to go back to the topic we were just on. I mean, that, in terms of, there are people that are scared to go forward. I think one of the advantages I have, especially as a veteran, and knowing, as a veteran in the military, you get to know a lot of great people. And some of those great people died very young, defending our country. And I'm here and I've got a chance. And you think I'm worried about, wow, I might go bankrupt, I might lose everything? No, man. I mean, I had the opportunity to serve alongside real heroes, right? And to honor their memory, I go out and try to kill it every day, because I know that's what they would do if they were here. And they
Right.
can't be here because they made sure that people like you and me have the opportunity to do it. So for me, it's
Right.
more like a duty to go out and do it and to push it every day, because ultimately, you know, it's up to the American business person to make this country what it can be, to make, you know, to ensure that we continue to dominate in our fields and to make the, you know, humanity better. It's about improvement. And if we are doing it, who's going to do it? And so for me, it's like, I feel this moral obligation to do it, but also I feel tremendous guilt when I'm not doing it. You know, looking in the mirror saying, what are you going to do today, Luis? What are you going to do, John? So getting into the habits, almost every day I exercise. I'm 45 years old. I go to the gym 6 days a week, or run or do something. I usually first thing in the morning. I wrote an article about Admiral McRaven. This guy was the admiral that spoke at University of Texas. He said that most important thing to do is make your bed every day, right? Do you remember that speech?
I've heard that before, yeah.
What a crock of shit. What a waste of time. Let me tell you something. I went to a military school my last 2 years in high school. We had to make our beds every day. To make a good military bed with hospital corners takes about 3-4 minutes. All right. Now add that over your entire lifetime. How much time did you waste making your bed? You know what? You want to be a champion or warrior? Unless you're going to work at the Ritz-Carlton, hey, pay somebody else to make your bed. You know, think about what you could do in those 3 to 4 minutes. In 3 to 4 minutes, and when I was a young man, and in 4 minutes, I could do 100 push-ups and 90 sit-ups, right? In 4 minutes, you can read a few statutes, right? If you're a lawyer, you can read a couple rules of evidence. In those 4 minutes, and understand the first thing in the morning is when your mind is fresh, and usually I wake up a little bit paranoid too. Those are the most productive minutes. Don't waste that time doing a menial task like making a bed. Now, if you like to make your bed, fine, do it. But I would say that's, you know, that's like watching TV. It's just, it's nothing. So figure out what has the highest impact and do that first in the morning. That's one thing. So for me, it's exercise, because once I'm exercising, my brain starts working. And then I'm probably good for I have 2 good hours a day where I'm just on fire and get everything done. And I can't waste that time making a bed or picking up dry cleaning or something like that, you know? And so for me, you know, it's workout, have the protein shake. I used to do some journaling and stuff. I've kind of gotten away from that, but and then it's you know, when I come home, always every night before I go to bed, you know, my wife and I will say what we're grateful for. So it's about exercise and it's about gratitude. Those are the 2 routines. Everything that happens in between. You know, some days it's really healthy. Some days it's, you know, it's you go into the restaurant and you're going to sit down for a couple hours and have a 7-course meal. And, you know, but hey, as long as I get that exercise in the morning and eat healthy in the morning and practice gratitude, I'm always recharged the next day.
Man, you said so much there. I mean, you talked about perspective and the duty to really do it. And I think that's challenging me, by the way. I'm over here listening to you. I'm like, holy cow, I got to get to work because I'm not waking up with enough urgency every morning. But I'm serious. Like the perspective, when you think about the sacrifice that other people have made, when you think about all the things that we get to do, we don't have to go to work. We get to go to work, and we get to do it because of the sacrifice that other people have made. It really makes a difference in overcoming your fears. Cause like, you know, I have 2 little boys, and I always say, like, are my boys going to be proud of me when they get older? Or are they going to say my dad never amounted to anything because he was too scared of success, or he was too scared of failure? And man, that perspective is huge. You know, one of the things that are important are mentors. And I'm curious, you know, who was your mentor, and what would be like the best piece of advice you've ever received from them?
That's tough because I've had so many great mentors. I mean, obviously I wouldn't be where I am today without the mentors. I mean, I think about, you know, my mother who is very entrepreneurial. I mean, we had, you know, I think by the time she was 26, it was me and all my siblings. There's 4 of us. Right. And she still went on to get her MBA. Right. And so they really taught me about, you know, I didn't have a lot of supervision as a kid. My dad was a trial lawyer. He was always traveling, trying cases. And they would, you know, I remember when I was 10, I wanted to buy the Schwinn Predator bike. I mean, you know, I don't know, I'm older, but this is what I wanted. And my parents said, okay, get a job and buy it. And so I got a paper out and I detasseled corn. I did, and with the paper out back then, there were paper boys that were disappearing and stuff and, getting abducted. And my parents didn't think twice about that. I said, go do it. But, my mom was very much about investing and she bought me Think and Grow Rich when I was in high school,
Wow.
and my parents were just very much like, hey, there's actions will have consequences, good or bad, and you get to decide. And so I was very fortunate, I think, to grow up in that environment. My parents, I think, were great mentors in letting me just do what I wanted to do. And I, like I said, it had the effect that they wanted. It's like, oh, okay, I'm going to get up at 5 and detassel corn. And then when I get back at 4 in the afternoon, I'm going to do the afternoon paper out so I can do that. I had days, I remember, where I went from wrestling practice to swimming practice, as a kid or training.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was always just like, no one ever said, John, you can't do that. They'd be like, okay,
right.
Well, how, the question was always, how are you going to do that? So that was, I think those are important mentors. I think, in the military, I had a lot of great commanders who would basically do the same thing and say, okay, here's your mission. In the Army, when we give a mission statement, we always start with who, what, when, where, and why. We never tell anybody how to do it. And doctrinally, that's what the Russians did, which is why the Russians could never, when the Cold War was going on, they said, we never know what the Americans are going to do because we're not lockstep. We don't tell people how to do something. And so a lot of the great commanders I had in the military would never tell me how to do something. They would say, here's the task conditions and standards, go do it. Take your team and do it. And I think, so like I said, a lot of people there. And then I've hired a lot of business coaches. I think the most important thing I learned from when I was young, and my dad would hire coaches for me for athletics, like, okay, I want to get faster, running coach, strength coach. This is in the 90s and nobody was doing it. But it was invest in yourself. So the Warren Buffett advice.
Absolutely.
I'm in Omaha today. So the best, your best investment is always in yourself. I truly believe that. I continue to spend money on coaches. I mean, whether it's a personal trainer, hey, I'm in great shape. I don't need a trainer, right? But I want to know what's the next thing. And as I age, right, am I doing the right thing? So I'm going to go to experts. So I want to have a great trainer. I want to have a great accountant. I'm a lawyer, but I want to have a great lawyer too. I want to have a good business coach. I want to have great peers. I want to know people like Luis Scott and Seth Bader and have them around me. So it's a 360 mentorship, because I also want my subordinates. I want great subordinates who I love to develop to give me advice. And I want to hear from my peers, but I want to hear from coaches too. The only person I can't hear from is a boss, because I don't have one. Nor do I want one.
I hear you. That's awesome stuff, man. What a treat it's been to have you on. I mean, perspective is important for entrepreneurship. Having a passion where you serve people, having the courage to succeed, having that warrior ethos. I mean, it's been incredible. So guys, we've been talking to John Barry, the owner of Barry Law Firm, America's veterans law firm. John, where can people find you?
They can find us at ptsdlawyers.com, as in post-traumatic stress disorder. ptsdlawyers.com for veterans that need to get a hold of us, 1-888-883-2483, or just Google John Barry, not the country singer. You'll probably find me. Hopefully my marketing team's doing their job, but John Barry, attorney. You'll probably find my dad's page in Wikipedia, which will pop up first since he's the hero trial lawyer, but you'll get to me eventually, but John Barry.
I can attest, if you type in John Barry Law, you will find him. So be sure to look him up. All right, John, thanks so much for being on. It was awesome having you.
Thanks, Luis. It's been a pleasure.
You've been listening to the Guts and Glory Show with Luis Scott. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to share. For more information on this episode, please see the show notes at www.gutsandgloryshow.com. And join us next time as we talk to another leader in business that had the guts to overcome all odds for the glory of success.